Um, so thanks everyone for joining the webinar on lettings agents managing your portfolio in the midst of a pandemic. My name is Max. I am the Senior Business Development Associate here at Arthur. If anyone has any questions after the webinar, feel free to take down my email now so that you can email me directly and I'll be able to help you out with any of your queries. But if you have any questions at the end of the presentation and at the end of what we've shown you, please just put them into the Q&A so we can answer them at the end, because we'll have some time at the end for questions. So in terms of the agenda, we're going to go through a quick introduction, insights and trends into the market at the moment, how we can plan for uncertainty, communicating during a pandemic, some tips and tricks that we have picked up at Arthur, including virtual viewings and of course adopting digital solutions, how a cloud-based software can really help to streamline and digitalize your current processes if you're not currently using Arthur, and then we might have a quick Q&A after the presentation as well. So in terms of what this webinar is about, how lettings agents can manage amidst the pandemic, we might have lettings agents, property managers here, we might have some property owners here. It's going to be just a general presentation. So of course, coronavirus has transformed the way that we operate in the lettings market. Managing a portfolio is difficult at the best of times with lots of different systems that people might use. With Arthur, obviously, we try to streamline that process. And so we want to allow people to adapt quickly, to evolve, and to just streamline their processes even during this pandemic. And with the return of more lockdowns across the UK, there could still be an uncertain future. In terms of insights and trends, obviously, we all know what's going on at the moment. There's been increased rent arrears, lower tenants into properties in September, down from 101 in August, 82 new tenants in September. And there's less landlord confidence just in the market in general. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a positive this, that we can't, put processes in place to automate services and to increase brand awareness during the pandemic. And there's a quote from our CEO, Mark Trupp, which says, "No one knows what the future of the letting markets will look like," which makes it extremely hard to plan for. But we can do things to make sure you can operate as efficiently and effectively as possible to succeed post-pandemic. In terms of planning for uncertainty, many of you are probably already using Arthur and you found that it helps so much in terms of the whole tenant journey from applicant to moving out. Some of you may not be using Arthur, and if so, welcome to the webinar. I hope that you take a lot from this and that we can get you on the system afterwards. Having plans in the short term is great, but you want to know that you have a plan in the medium term, in the long term, and using a cloud-based solution like Arthur allows you to do just that. When people start using us, they want to have that longevity and the ability to manage their portfolio, a growing portfolio for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, rather than just planning for the now. So aim for success, not just for survival, and utilize what you have available at the moment. In terms of communicating, I'm sure there might have been quite a lot of people that use WhatsApp, that might use Facebook, that might have disjointed communications and connections with multiple stakeholders, be that their contractors, their property owners, and even other property managers or lettings agents who might be working with you. Ensuring communication is so key at the moment, allowing you to have one system where you can communicate with all of those stakeholders, be it sending a contractor a task, be it sending your property owners, remittance statements, be it just making sure that everyone in your team knows exactly what they're doing at a specific time, and you're able to monitor that activity is so important. And messaging and services can open your business up to a completely new audience who know that their needs have changed. One thing that we found during this pandemic that has really seen an increase is virtual viewings. Just an industry stat on the right over there, one of our integrated partners, and we do integrate with 4 partners. We have Zoopla, Rightmove, StuRents, and Facebook Marketplace. Now, Facebook Marketplace and StuRent, you don't need to have an account for. Rightmove and Zoopla, you would have to have an account for to subscribe to that service. But what they found was there was a 215% increase in virtual viewing viewings during the first 2 weeks of March, so just as lockdown began. And that hasn't really seemed to slow down. A lot of tenants we're finding are happy to secure a property without actually seeing it in person, as long as they have that virtual viewing and they have, a virtual tour, which I'm sure quite a lot of you are working with third-party providers for that. And with that, you can enter in the URL when you post it to a market on Arthur. But tenants have increasingly busy schedules, and digitalization of how they operate and how they communicate with their landlords and their property managers is just such a key focus. It won't be a case that everything will go completely digital in the future, but you want to make sure you have a hybrid of the two. The fact you can have a cloud-based solution to speak online, but you can also eventually, we hope, go and meet people face to face. So digital solutions, why should you explore them? So in terms of processes, when we have when we have people come to Arthur, they come to us for one of three things. Either their processes are, very time consuming. They don't have a way to manage their portfolio as effectively as could be done. It's disjointed. They have multiple different systems. They might be using spreadsheets or and then another system for financials, and they just want to have a more connected process. And also, just like I said, connecting multiple stakeholders. So being able to report maintenance issues quickly, get those quick response times from the contractor on their own stakeholder app, and be able to conduct, everything that needs to be done, shown to your tenants, be that documents, certificates, rent amount, just directly through the app without having to take up too much time on the phone. You can do everything through one platform. Now, of course, in terms of digital solutions, one thing that can help stand out from the crowd is actually bespoking your solution. So obviously we offer our apps to multiple stakeholders, but what we also offer is bespoke tenant apps. Now, if you have a lettings agent and you want to create that luxury experience and you want to have them download an app from the App Store that's purely yours, we can create that for you and just allow them to think that you've actually made a whole platform just for your tenants rather than them downloading the Arthur app. So something to think about there as well. And also what digital solutions allow you to do is explore automation. Everyone wants to save time. Everyone wants to save money as well. And being able to automate certain parts of the Arthur system will change your life. Be that certificates, so compliance is a big issue. So being able to actually automate when a certificate's expiring, late rent. So rather than having to call up the tenant, they can just see, and again, automatic email if their rent's late by 7 days, by 14 days, by 21 days. Task management, when a contractor's finished a job, you automatically get an email telling you to check your account. Little things that make a very, very big difference and will also help to adapt in today's society. So in terms of cloud-based software, why do people go for it? Well, it's available anytime, anywhere, any place. What we found is that with a web-based solution, people have to use it in an office. With a mobile solution, it allows people to use their phone on the go. It allows them to just create more flexibility and adapt and respond to changes. And they can just work more efficiently. Wherever they are, they can handle tenant issues, they can handle rent payments, everything can be done on the go, which is really a key USP here. And it also provides scale. If you're a lettings agent, if you're a property owner who has 50 units and you want to really expand and focus on expanding a portfolio to 200 units, you're not going to be able to do that on spreadsheets and on multiple different platforms. You want to use one point of service where you can then continue to grow your portfolio while also being able to automate as many of the processes as possible. And we do offer an automation service where we can set up these processes with you. So if anyone's interested in that, please do feel free to email me after the webinar and we can talk further. Digital communication, allowing you to work together and communicate with your property managers and ensure a clear line of dialogue. Property management software allows you to automate, your rent reminders, keep tenants up to date about their upcoming payments and give them time to plan. And finally, what you can see here, if you use Arthur already, you'll be very familiar with the apps in the bottom right. What you can see in the top left is the contractor app, followed to the right by the tenant app. Then in the bottom left is our property manager app. And then the bottom right is our property owner app. So like I said, we have multiple apps for different stakeholders. If they want to work on the computer, they can. If they want to work on their mobile, they also can do that. So how we help? So we connect a community in a pandemic. We realized that COVID is a big deal. And so we actually added features. And that's the great thing about the flexibility of the system. So we now have a feature on our tenant app, which allows tenants to say what symptoms they're experiencing and just allows you to kind of have that COVID check for them. Market leading integrations as well. Never will you have to go somewhere else for another service. We're constantly integrating with third-party systems, most notably Xero and QuickBooks for financials, but we also work with Advanced Rent for tenant referencing, Signable for digital signatures. We work with an SMS company so you can send messages directly through Arthur. All your needs can be done through here, and anything you can't find, we integrate with Zapier as well, so you can just zap, to your calendar and to other third-party services as well. And like I touched on before, you've also got the level of customization. We've added a new feature called custom fields where you can actually build certain features into forms, into stuff to do with the property, the unit, the tenancy level. And again, that's something that I'd be more than happy to show anyone who might currently be using Arthur how to do in more detail. If you want to learn more, feel free to book a demo with me or email me after this. But also in terms of customization, like I was saying, we do offer bespoke tenant apps which allow you to have your own app on the App Store and just be able to showcase that to your tenants or your property owners when we bring out the bespoke property owner app as well. So I'm going to open up to questions now. Any questions that you might have about the presentation, please feel free to type them in. I see we do have one already. What was the base for the 215? Those were just statistics. So the base, the 215% increase on Zoopla was just something that we have, researched and found online. So that's where that came from. Perfect. I'll leave it open for a minute or so, just so people can ask any questions. And then what I'll do is I'll take you through the software a little bit and show you the ways that we're helping people adapt in this market and how we can kind of streamline those processes for you. So I'm assuming everyone can see my screen, which is great. So the first thing that I wanted to show you was, again, a streamlining process is the automation of Arthur. So if I go into my account here and I click on automation, this might look a bit scary. It might look like there's a lot of things in here, be it applicants, tenants, certificates, documentation. Everything in here can be automated. So let's say, for example, one of the key issues for me in terms of my time management was that I didn't know when my certificates were expiring for my property owners, and it was causing a bit of complications. I could add an automatic reminder and an automated event to send a specific property manager who's dealing with a specific property a certificate expires in 30 days, 14 days, 7 days, or it's even expiring on this specific day, just so you can continue to kind of automate those processes. When it comes to rent, we have rent reminders that can remind a tenant if they haven't paid their rent 7 days late, 14 days late, 21 days late, and we can add custom automation into this for you as well. So again, a very flexible system and just allows you to streamline some processes that might otherwise be disjointed. This does work best, of course, if you use Xero and QuickBooks and you want to integrate the two together. It works really well with that because the invoices would be generated in Arthur. You would then synchronize those invoices over to Xero and QuickBooks, reconcile in Xero and QuickBooks against your bank fee, and then send the receipts back to Arthur. And based on what receipts come back, we'll then show you exactly what tenants, should have paid their rent on that specific day, which will then trigger those automated events. Another thing we find from people who come to us is that they have issues kind of keeping on top of tasks and task management. And so if a task gets created by a tenant, let's say, and they send it in, you can notify a specific property manager with a specific email that will go out automatically when that trigger happens. The same goes for when a property is added, or when you add a utility, or when a viewing is added, it will notify a specific person about that. So if I go back to my dashboard, the next thing I wanted to show you was in tenancies, actually, because this is a new thing that we've instigated. So I don't know if any of you are aware of this in Arthur, but if I go to a tenancy and I go to edit that tenant, you'll see that we've actually got in these two new sections, so COVID profile and vulnerability profile. And that really helps in terms of understanding, if they're self-isolating, have they had any symptoms, and just allows you to feel reassured that they are safe to continue living in the property. And also a vulnerability profile, so you can see if they're vulnerable. So if someone does happen to have COVID and someone's vulnerable, then you'll be able to deal with that, hopefully accordingly. In terms of what else we can do, another thing that's really important is just being able to kind of create reports on your tasks or your work orders. A lot of people have issues with reporting. You know, if you're using spreadsheets and you're using another system, it's very hard to kind of get all that data in one place. So if I was wanting to find a work order report, I could simply go to work order report, run my report, press continue, run it as a screen, and I'd be able to see all the work orders that I have going on at a specific time, who's doing it, what unit it's for, if it's being completed or not. And obviously you can customize this, you can bespoke these reports, you know, to have your own logo and everything. But yeah, also a great thing to do. In terms of managing your workforce, with everyone working from home at the moment, I'm sure a lot of you might be in the office, some of you might all be working remotely. It's really important to understand what your employees can and can't see. And so on our enterprise package, what we offer is something called permissions. Now, if I have an employee called Jake Arthur, let's say, if I go into Jake Arthur, you'll see that I have this thing called permissions. And what that allows me to do is limit what they can see within the system. So if I have just had a new starter who's actually working from home and has started remotely because we're not in the office at the moment, what I can do is I can make sure that they have no access to something like the financials. If I do have QuickBooks or Xero integrated, I can give them no access to that. If I don't want to be able to change my subscription plan, you know, no access. So you can go through this and kind of customize what you want your, you know, new starters or your virtual assistants or anyone who you want to understand that. And we do have a question. I am going to pause for that as well. Can you set profile templates for types of personnel? So at the moment, we have the ability for you to have your team, which is your property managers. We have property owners, which you can add, lettings agents, contractors, tenants, applicants. So we have all those different filters already, but within your team, you can't actually assign them as, you know, a specific job title, if that's what you're asking. When you go ahead and add a person, you can put in their first name, their last name, their phone number, and make sure you put in their email so you can invite them to the system. And once you save them, then they're then, you know, invited to the system. But yes, if you wanted to add a property manager or a property owner, you would do those in completely different sections. Basically. And you can do that for your contractors. You can do that for your tenants. Your tenants will just show up here. You have to actually add them to a tenancy, but you can add all of your team there, and you can set their permissions on an individual level. You can't set their permissions based on what profile they are. So if they're head of property management, or if, you know, they're a self-managing landlord, you can't do it at the moment. So if I go back to the dashboard, one more question. Can you copy from one person to another so all types are consistent? So like I said, in contacts, they're all going to be if you add them to your team, they're all going to be property managers. So they're all going to be under that same type, which gives you that consistency. You can't copy over the permissions from one person to another. You would have to set them individually, but that is a nice idea and something that we might look to implement in the future. So thank you for that. What I want to show you guys now is an example of the Tenant app. So this is a web-based platform of the Tenant app, but we also have obviously the mobile version, but it's easier to show you the web-based version due to kind of loading times and air server. So what the tenant can see here is that they can see everything relating to their tenancy. So they can see how much is outstanding of their balance. They can see any payments that they've made. So if I go to payments, you'll be able to see that I've got these charges outstanding, unpaid and overdue, but I can see that this one has been paid. Now, if this one's been outstanding, this direct rent, for example, has been outstanding, then you would automatically have those rent reminders sent to the tenants to notify them. And then you can say after 21 days, if you don't pay by this date, we're going to have to take further action, maybe even send a notice or something, which obviously they don't want to have to do, you don't want to have to do. So hopefully they then end up paying from there. Going back to the overview, what they can also see is files. So things such as documents, so fire risk assessment, their AST can all be stored in here, as well as certificates. So you can have your EPC, your gas safety, and you can choose to share that with your tenants, or you can choose to just have it for you as the property manager, or you can choose to send it with your owners as well. And you can also see images of certificates and documents as well. If a tenant wants to go ahead and raise a new issue, they simply go ahead and raise an issue, press continue, and you can add these issue types. Again, something that was disjointed from a lot of the lettings agents, property managers, self-managing landlords that we speak to is that task management is and always has been hard. So we want to make a way, we want to make a way to kind of break that down to simplify it. So what you can do is you can add your own issue types. If you find that tenants report the same thing over and over again, add that in the Arthur system as an issue type, and they'll then be able to select that. So if I want to go to maintenance and I described an issue, I could then describe it. I could also hide that from other tenants in my tenancy if it was like a personal issue. I could then go ahead and upload my files and then review and submit to my landlord or to my property manager or to my lettings agent. We also have here information, and this is, again, a massive time saver. The amount of people who get calls, I'm sure you're aware of this, of the Wi-Fi code, or what to do if I've lost my keys, or what's the alarm code to get into my property is astounding. You know, everyone's been a student one time, I assume, and, you know, coming back, you might sometimes forget what your code is or what your Wi-Fi code is at points. So having that all stored here, so general, you'll be able to see general information, and then you've also got access details where you can put the codes to lockbox and access, you know, the alarm code, which the tenant will have to enter a password into to allow them to see that code. So, you know, if someone steals their phone or something, no one can get into the house. You have to have a code to access that. And then you've also got inventory. So you can put, you know, what is the inventory, a description, also a cost for that. So they know if they break something, that's the cost that they will have to pay for that specific piece of equipment. Services, that's a kind of a new thing that we've introduced. This will allow you to add services to the tenant. So if you offer, you know, dry cleaning or laundry, you can put that in there. And then we've also got utilities and notices, which are very rarely used because the people who are managing their system on Arthur actually, you know, the tenants are so pleased with it that they just know exactly when to pay their rent and what to pay. So, you know, it's very rarely used that people have to send notices anyway. So that gives you an overview of the tenant app. And obviously what they can also do is that they can see all the messages that you've sent them as a property manager also. I'm going to stop for a second for questions. We've actually got a couple come through, so I'm just going to answer those quickly. Is there a compliant profile / checklist for tenant documentation, particularly for HMO, for types of tenants to log / prove the tenant has correct documentation? So we can create checklists for yourself as the property manager or the self-managing landlord, that before you add a certificate or a document, you have to fill out those things. So have I got the gas safety? Have I got the EPC? When you add a property as well, you can make it so that you have to have required certificates. So what I'll do quickly is I'll just go back over here. If I was to go ahead and add a property, what you can see, I can choose whether it's a single rentable or a multiple rentable unit. A multiple rentable unit would be what you would use for an HMO, as the property level would be the house, the unit level would be the rooms in the HMO, and then the tenancy would be the people living within each of those units. But what you'll see at the bottom here is you've got required certificates. So you can actually say, I know for this property, I need to have a gas safety, a fire alarm, and a deposit certificate, and it will make sure the system will notify you that you need to add those required certificates if you haven't done so already. So I hope that answers your question. We do have another question here. Hello, how can we access this tenant portal to see what our tenants have access to? Right, so for that, what you can do is you can go ahead and create a demo property, so a test property. You can then go ahead and add yourself as a tenant, so maybe use your personal email address. And then what you'll be able to do is that once you've sent that, you know, once you've added the tenancy, so if I go ahead, let me just close this. So if I go ahead and add a tenancy, you'll see that on tenant details, I'll add my name. So I might put Max Gray. I might put my mobile, and make sure you put your email in. So my personal email is, let's just say max.gray@hotmail.com. And it's already being used, of course, so you can't use it. But then what you do is on the last page, you'd simply go ahead and add the tenant when you add the tenancy, and they'll be invited so you'll be invited to use the app as a tenant in that demo property. That would be the best way to understand it if you wanted to use it that way. But just make sure that you archive the property after, because if you are on a paid package, it will count that as an active unit, and you would be charged an extra, however much you are for a package. So if you're on professional, an extra £1.25. If you want enterprise, an extra £1.50. So just make sure that you archive the property after you've had a look into what your tenants can see. We have another. Oh, cool. Okay, so we've answered that one. Perfect. Done. Amazing. Is there anything, if people have any questions about certain specific things in the system that they would like to see to help them in this post-pandemic world, do feel free to send a question through, and I'll be happy to take people through that as well. We do have one more question. Does the system carry a log of certificates going to the tenant / a copy of the acknowledgement of receipts? Okay, very good question. So what we'll do is that we'll go into a tenancy really quickly. So Ben Morris, for example, what I can do is if I go to certificates, I can go ahead and add a certificate. You'll then be able to select the certificate type. So if I wanted to call it an EPC, I'll put in the expiry date, and that's where the automated events will take the expiry date from. So 30 days before, 7 days before, on the day. And again, we can set all these automated events up for you. So I would really advise getting in touch with me for a further conversation about that if you haven't set up your automation services with us already. You can choose a file as well. And then you'll see here, you can choose who you want to share with. So if I go ahead and share it with all tenants, if I put something at the unit level, so if I put an EPC at the unit level, because it would be for that room, I could share it with all the tenants, within that specific room. Or if I had a single residential unit, which had, 4 beds, but they're all under one AST, they'd all be able to see that certificate. So that's the best way to confirm that they've received the certificate, by ticking that box, all tenants, and then you should be able to see exactly who can see that certificate. Perfect. We do have another question. Is there also a property owner app we can see? Yes, what I would recommend is after this demonstration, get in touch with me. So email me on max.gray@arthur-online.co.uk, and I'll be happy to give you a further demonstration of the property owner app. That goes for anyone here, by the way. We also do offer, just like I said about the bespoke tenant apps, we are going to start offering bespoke property owner apps. So you can have an app that your property owner will download from the App Store that's under your branding. So it seems like you've made a completely bespoke app for them. And again, if people want to discuss that with me, feel free to message me after the call. I hope that answers your question there. Amazing. So what we'll do now is we'll go through the tenancy journey. So obviously, if I go to the Arthur Store, you can see that we work with Xero, we work with QuickBooks. We are coming out with kind of our own live bank feed soon. And if you want to know more about that, potentially get in touch with our finance team. Along with offering a wide variety of services, such as this custom tenant app, training days, automated event creation, we do work with, like I said, a lot of third-party softwares. So we work with Signable for digital signatures. We work with these different marketing channels. And if you want to find out more about how you can synchronize your data with those marketing channels, we had a webinar yesterday on the portals, a whole hour on the portals. So feel free to send me a message and I can send you through that webinar well, but it should be on YouTube in the next few days, much like this one. You've also got SMS, and then for tenancy referencing, we work with advanced tenant referencing and Cool Credit for a credit check, and you can buy these in bulk. So if I wanted to buy one, it would be £4.75, but if I go ahead and buy, a bulk amount, it reduces the price each time. So you never really have to go anywhere to find services. We bring the services to you. How that would work in the process is you would, a lot of you will probably have websites where you get a lot of your applicants calling from. With our open API, we can actually embed what's called an applicant form into your website for you at a small cost. And you would then be able to have an applicant fill in the form, and it would go straight into Arthur, into the applicant section. Or when they call you up and they say, I want to view this, you can send them off an applicant form. So these are all my applicants, let's just say. What I could do is that when the applicant came in, I could simply create a credit report against that applicant, and then just simply go ahead and continue. You'd have to put in a few bits and pieces of information if they haven't filled that in on the applicant form. But the great thing is you can also add tags everywhere. So if you know this applicant might be a hot lead or something like that, you can tag that, create it, and then that tag's automatically created for all these other ones. So that's where, in answer to a question we had previously, duplication does exist. So once you've created that tag once, you won't have to create it again. It's just when it comes to permissions that you can't copy permissions over to one employee to another. So once you've got that applicant, what you could then do is you could go ahead and just add a viewing for that applicant. Search for the related units. So I might pick my demo complex. Say that they've confirmed the viewing. So this could be done all over the phone as well to streamline that process. Choose the viewing date, the viewing time, the duration, and then assign it to a specific property manager. And this is where task management becomes really great, because if you have 7, 8, 9, 10 people in your team, you might have specific people who are unavailable and specific people who are available. So it just allows you to assign that viewing to someone else in your team potentially. And you can also add sources as to where they found you from, which is really great for your marketing campaigns, just so you know what portal or what platform you might want to increase spend on, just to make sure that you get extra applicants to fill the properties. Add some notes, and then you'll be able to actually notify you of the appointment. You'll be able to notify the unit tenants. And again, these are examples of automated events. And if I just tick those, it would automatically send a pre-written message that I've written myself to that viewer about the appointment, which will say, hi, Jay, hi, Ben, you have a viewing on the 26th of November at, let's say, 4 o'clock for 30 minutes. Please let us know if that time works for you. And if you need to cancel, just reply to this email. So really simple and really great to automate, because you don't have to send out those emails manually, and, avoid that disjointed process by creating more connected workflows. Cool. So again, if anyone has anything that they want to go through specifically, if they want to find out more about a specific aspect of the system, please send a question through on your on the call, and I'll be happy to answer everything. Otherwise, I will just continue going on and talk about the task management side of things. So what the tenant can do, if I just switch back to the tenant app, is when they do raise the issue, what that will do is it will come through into tasks. And again, based on automated events, it will then notify a specific property manager who is in charge of that unit or that tenancy that a task has been created, so then they can go onto their phone, or they can go onto the web portal and fix it. So let's say that this one came in. So a faulty Wi-Fi task came in from a tenant. What I can do is I could go ahead and click on it. I could see about the description. The tenant can also upload documents and images, but I can do this myself. I can also add a task, manually. So if the tenant doesn't have the app, and I would advise that there are strategies to help the tenant download the app, just to show them the benefits of why they should be using it. But you've got your documents and images, and you can see what's going on there. We also have subtasks that you can add to the task. So if you have faulty Wi-Fi, you might want to create a checklist that says check Wi-Fi provider, contact Wi-Fi provider, and then check with the tenants that the Wi-Fi is fixed, just so you can then go across that process and say, right, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. I know that I'm up to date with that task. If that task requires a contractor to do something about it, you can go ahead and add a work order. Put in the title. So I need Wi-Fi fixed. I don't really know who would, we can then select a work order service. So an aerial/network specialist, let's just say. And then you could obviously just say, I need a quote for that. I want to share the documents. I want to hide the tenant details from that contractor. And then I could go ahead and just, go ahead and choose my contractor and add him to the work order. So Gray Enterprises, I could go ahead and invite them. And just like that, I sent the contractor a notification. They'll get it by email, but they'll also get it on their app if they are using the contractor app, where they can then go ahead and quote for it. And once they've quoted for it, I can accept the quote, and then the work can be carried out. I hope that all makes sense. If anyone has any questions about the workflow management within tasks or work orders, please again contact me after the webinar on max.gray@arthur-online.co.uk, and that's Gray with an A, not an E. So I've got another question come through here. Is there a workflow from viewing through onboarding? We do have workflows. Yes, we have a knowledge base that extensively, helps out with understanding the system in more detail. But in terms of workflows, it's different from person to person. Even within lettings agencies, if some lettings agent will do it different to others, they might have slightly different processes. And so that's where we want to sit down with you and work out what your automation should be like. So, understand the automation processes, understand how your workflow works specifically for you. Because while this is a platform that obviously, lots and lots of companies and people are using, it's very specific and individual as well in terms of how you can set it up. I believe we've answered a lot of questions from this one person. If you would like to send me an email after the call, then we can talk a lot further about it, because it sounds like you have a lot of questions about the workflow management and about every aspect of the system. So please do contact me after, and we can organize a demo to go through this in more detail. And hopefully, if you're not using the system, get you up and running. And if you are using the system, just show you how these things can work more effectively and more efficiently. Perfect. So in terms of the dashboard, this is where you would see everything that's related to your entire team, your entire staff management. So you could see any incorrect tenancy statuses, you could see what deposits you had to register, you could see any work orders to sign off. So if a contractor had completed the task, you'd be able to see that here. And also work orders that are pending as well. So ones that you need to give approval to get started. You'll be able to see missing, / expired certificates. So anyone that I need to go ahead and update, like I said, you can get those automatic reminders, but it will also show up on your dashboard, and I could just go ahead and edit that certificate, upload a new one, and just make sure that they were compliant and that they were up to date. And this is the dashboard where you can see all notifications across your entire team. So if you're a self-managing landlord and you have, loads and loads of people working for you, or if you're a lettings agent, you have, a team of 10, 12, 15 people, you can see all the notifications that have been done, all the activity that's been performed within a specific property, unit, tenancy, from this dashboard as well. We do have one more question. Thank you, Matt. Perfect. No problem at all. Yeah, like I said, if you want to message me after the call, then we can definitely have a further conversation about this. So yeah, max.gray@arthur-online.co.uk. Thanks so much. No problem. You're not hogging the presentation at all. Any questions are more than welcomed. So the last thing I want to show everyone is, of course, the financials tab. Now, we have the ability to integrate with both Xero and QuickBooks. I myself picked Xero. What you're able to do here, like I said, is see any overdue invoices. You really shouldn't have any overdue invoices. I know it's quite hard to do, but what will happen is, like I said, the invoices will be generated in Arthur. You'll then synchronize them over to be reconciled in Xero or QuickBooks. And then once you've done that, you'll synchronize those, reconciliations back to Arthur, which will then give you the receipts against those invoices. Some cool things we've added is transferable income. So obviously for lettings agents and property managers, you want to make sure you're not holding your management fees and everything for too long. So you can then see what that transferable income is and just make sure that it goes to the right place. And you can also see, the contractor can see any unpaid contractor bills as well. So any unpaid bills from the contractor, you're able to see right here and able to, settle those straight away and just know what the job is for. So if I go into contractor bills, what I can see is that I've got this invoice number. I'd be able to see what the transaction is. I could see any documents related to it. And I could also see kind of what it's related to. So it's related to this property, this tenancy with these tenants in. And this was the description. So it was for a leaky tap. And that's the reference. So really easy to just navigate across the system. So The workflow management is, of course, the most important thing. We want to make a disjointed journey turn into a connected journey. So you'd go from applicant to a viewing to an active tenant to ending your tenancy, to moving out, and everything in between will be sorted through Arthur. So it's a single point of system to get everything done, essentially. Any more questions from everyone before we I know we finished slightly early, but we can wrap it up in a couple of minutes if people don't have any more questions. So in terms of a couple more things, then the last kind of couple of things I want to show you is messaging. So a lot of you might be using WhatsApp or Facebook or lots of different systems to communicate with your tenants. It's very disjointed. It's very dysfunctional sometimes because managing it and also managing, spreadsheets or another system is very hard. So what you can do is that you can actually go ahead and send either a new message to one person, or so I could send a message to Ben Morris, or I could go ahead and add a message to all of my property active tenants. I could then go ahead once that loads, because I've got a lot of property. Sorry, guys, it might just take a while. So I'm just going to open up the chat while that loads. Can I access a recording of this webinar later? Yes, of course you can. This webinar is being recorded. It's going to be up on YouTube, hopefully later today or tomorrow. And then what I can also do is if you want to message support@arthur-online.co.uk or myself, max.gray@arthur-online.co.uk, then I can send you the recording directly. Another question just came in. How does the system link to the NRLA and Gov to automatically download documents, e.g. how to rent guides? The point of that is it doesn't link to the NRLA and the government websites. We have the integrations that we do currently work with, but if you do have the documents in a separate folder, what you can do is you could just upload those into Arthur. So I'll show you just in a second, but now what we've got here is that we've got all of our property active tenants. I could select all of them, put in the subject, so new COVID updates, for example, put in my message, and then I go ahead and just send an email. An email is free. If you wanted to send an SMS to everyone, you'd have to buy SMSs through the system, but it's very, very affordable. I think it's like 3p a message if you buy in bulk. Going back to your question about the government rent procedures, do you normally download the rent guides from... Do you normally download the rent guides from the government website and then store them on your computer, or do you just use them on the government website? If you want to just message on the chat an answer to that, if possible, then we can move forward from there. While that's going on, we do have one more question. Is there a way to mark the message as high importance for when you need a quicker response from the tenant? Very good question. At the moment, I believe we don't have the ability to do that. If I was to send a new message, no, you can just send a message. You can't have it as high importance. But the main thing about this is that everything's all centralized and in one place. So the tenant will also receive that message on their app if they have it as a notification, and they'll then be able to reply to it through the app. So the app's really important in that sense because it allows you to have that direct communication with the tenant, and that lets them know, oh, I've got a message from Max Gray Property Management Company. I know that I need to answer that because it's probably going to be important, rather than just getting sent an email that could get lost in their thousands of emails that they might get sent today, which is where the app really, really does come in handy. Perfect. Yep. So in answer to your question, can you send automated text messages to HMO tenants on bin day to take out the wheelie bins? Very, very good question. The answer is yes, you absolutely can. And I think that's something that a lot of people would probably want to ask. So if I go into the property, I could go ahead and have this thing called reminders. What I could do is I could go ahead and add a reminder and call it, like you were saying, take out the wheelie bins. Now, while I'm writing this, can you just message what day you get them to take out the wheelie bins so we can make this more personal? Please make sure to take out. Perfect. Tuesday. Amazing. The wheelie bins. Bins every Tuesday. And what you can now do is you can set a reminder, so you can have that repeat every single week. I'm assuming it's on a weekly basis that they take the bins out, or is it a 2 weekly or 4 weekly? We'll just put weekly for this experiment. And then what we'll do, perfect, weekly. And then what we'll do is we'll put that it repeats on the Tuesday. But what we really want to do is we want to repeat this on the Monday, because we want them to know maybe the day before that they've got to take them out the next day. And they might do that on the evening. So we can start that from, let's say, next Monday, so the 30th of November. And we can set that to start at, again, we can put it up to 8 o'clock maybe, or 9 o'clock. So they're on the way to work and they suddenly get this message that lets them know that they've got to do this every single Tuesday. You can set no end date, so it just runs periodically, forever, or you can have an end date for the tenancy moving out date. And then you've got here, so you can send the tenant an email about it. You can send them a notification directly to their tenant app, or if you do purchase SMSs, you can send it via that as well. You can also just notify the property manager as well, because if you do want to just know the email's being sent, then you can just get an email yourself just to let you know that reminders being set. But I hope that answers your question. In terms of the question that you had about the government, we use GoTenant that automatically scrapes the .gov website. Okay, fine. Yep. So we don't have that functionality. What we do is that you can just go ahead to documents. You can upload a file and you can simply just drag and drop the selected files. So if you do just want to go ahead and download those documents, you can simply just upload those to Arthur and you'll never really have to worry about that again. I think it would be great if you send me a message either on the chat if you have an Arthur account already, or if you're new, again, just email me after this directly, and we'll be able to set up a further call and a further demonstration just to talk about this further. Oh, fine, you're new. Okay, so send a message to max.gray, Gray, at arthuronline.co.uk, and we can set up a demo to go through the system processes and just help you understand it more. And that goes for anyone in this chat. If you're new and want to have a demo, or if you're an existing client of Arthur already and just want to know more information and want to understand how you can streamline your processes more, just get in touch with me. I'm really easy to set up a meeting with, and I always have time for anyone who wants to go further with this. Perfect. But yeah, so that's where you would upload the documents, and that would be shown again if you wanted them to be shown to the tenants, to the property owners, to the lettings agents and property managers, so all of your separate stakeholders. And we've also got inventories here, so you can add, the inventory within a specific property. So I have a fridge that's at this property, and I can put, the expiry date just again so the tenant knows exactly what you've installed. You know what you've installed. You know that if they break something, that it's going to cost them X amount of pounds, basically. Amazing. Right. So we've probably got about 5 minutes to go. So if anyone does have any more questions, specific to their setup or specific to what they want to know, please do let me know now so that we can answer them as efficiently, as effectively as possible. Otherwise, just message me after the call. The great thing about the system, just to make things easier, is that every single taskbar has filters. So if I wanted to know all my current tenants, I could just click that and it would let me know all of my current ones. If I wanted to know all of my ending tenancies, the same thing with that. So you can see everything here. If I wanted to know a specific unit owner as well, I'd be able to do it through there. And then if I have specific tenancy conditions, so I want to see all the tenancies with incorrect tenancy statuses who are also, who have expiring notices, you can basically select multiple of that as well. And it will just bring up things that fit that criteria, which is really, really, really handy. And we found that a lot of the people who use Arthur are using these filters to their full potential just to make their life so much easier. Good. Another question. Is there a basic tutorial for the tenants so they know how it works and yeah. So we do have a knowledge base that we continually update, and I believe there is documentation about how to utilize the tenant app. When you send them an email, it will tell them how to get set up, but it's very, very self-explanatory really in terms of what they can see. So this is exactly what your tenant would see really on the system. it would say hi Mark or whatever their name was. It would give them the date. It would then just show them, their payments right here. It would show them all the files, and then anything that they need to find, they can do there. And what you've got here is the COVID profile. So this is where you can say if you're self-isolating, if you've had any symptoms of COVID, have you been in contact, and you can just go through this and then just submit that so yourself and the property manager knows exactly where you've been or what you've done. I hope that answers that question. I'm just going to answer that live. Perfect. It's really great. We've had quite a lot of very interesting and extensive questions. So thank you everyone for asking so in-depth questions and for taking so much interest in this webinar. It really does mean a lot. So thank you all for your time. Going back to the tenancy. So yes, like I said, we've got filters for everything. If you go to properties, you can filter by residential, commercial. We do have a lot of people, lettings agents, property managers, self-managed landlords who have a complete mix of a portfolio. We even have some people who have, parking spaces as well, who utilize the system for that reason also. But yeah, I think for today's webinar, I feel like we've covered everything that we needed to. One thing else I would like to, one more question is coming. Can the tenants confirm that a maintenance item can be fixed or has been fixed? So the tenant will get notified by you when a job has been completed. They'll be able to follow that, but they won't be able to tell you when it's been fixed. It's up to the contractor to do that, I believe. Again, set up a call with me so that we can go through this in more detail and we can work out the exact logistics of how your setup works to see what the best way to advance is. Okay. But the one other thing that I wanted to show you all is, if I go to preferences in my profile, you can see we've got these things called custom fields. These are things that we can help you set up as well. So if I have an applicant/tenant, and what I can do is I can actually add additional sections to that tenant so that, if you're a social housing company, you might want to put meal vouchers are provided, or if you're a property manager, you might want to just have additional information that's specific and individual to your setup. Again, that's where things get really interesting because it can be customized to what you need rather than just one system that kind of fits all. Yes, we have the ability to do that with all the features that we have. There's plenty to go off of, but you can obviously customize the system to your liking as well. So that was really the last thing that I wanted to show you guys today. I'll leave the panel open for just another minute just to see if any more questions come in. Otherwise, I think now this would be a good time to stop. Again, if you need any more assistance with the system, I think I've said my email much too many times in this webinar, but if you do want to contact me, you'll get sent a follow-up email with my email in it as well, so you can just book a demo with me directly. You can email me directly, or you can just ask me any general questions you might have, and I'll be happy to oblige with anything that you would like to know. Amazing. And just in terms of the person who was writing to me about the automated text messages to HMO tenants on bin day to take out the wheelie bin, and the fact that you're using another property management software, we advise that you should kind of stick to one. The one that you're referring to, we should speak more about and talk about how we can kind of simplify your process and have you on one single point of system rather than having to maybe use one system for your government documents and one for everything else. Just try and bring all of that onto Arthur as well. Perfect. Well, yeah, thanks so much, everyone. The people who want to contact me, please feel free to contact me. Otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic afternoon, a fantastic time on Arthur. If you are new to Arthur and you've joined this because you wanted to find out a little bit more, absolutely fantastic. Go ahead and message me, or go ahead and sign up for a demo, or sign up to 30 days free and then message me, and we can kind of have a look at your account and we can look through how your setup works and everything like that. But thanks so much, everyone, for listening. And hopefully I'll be seeing you all on the next webinar. So thanks, everyone, and speak soon.